All right, hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 30. To episode 30. Today we're going to be taking a listen to Kh3rtis' new EP, Fragments 2. And if you have any questions or anything about the production, the music, sounds, anything like that, you can ask us in the chat and we'll answer it. In between each song, we'll be doing a little bit between each song, and then we'll also be taking a deep dive into Aphex Twin's new Samplebrain software. I think it's software, not a plugin, right? It's its own individual thing, right?
It's software. There is a DLL. There's a .dll, so I think I haven't explored it fully enough yet, but there's a .dll in there, so I think you can make it as a VSD. But for now, it's just a standalone app. So
does it turn everything in your DAW, if you do, into Comic Sans?
I hope so.
Yeah, one would hope, right? I love that he used Comic Sans. That's incredible. And then we've also got some new gear we're going to go over. A really cool pedal from Chase Bliss and something interesting from Zoom. Anyways, this is our music technology, music production podcast. We're live. If you want to help the channel, consider retweeting, liking, sharing the episode. It helps a ton. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is my Audionautic co-pilot, Kh3rtis. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. We've had a mental run-in for this, but yeah.
Good. It was an interesting start with the videos and all that. We had some issues and all that, but I think everything should be working. This is a bit of a new format we're doing when we have releases coming out on Audionautic Records. We'll do a listening party, and we figured we'd just kind of combine it with our live stream today. So let us know what you think in the comments or in the chat.
Yeah, we thought we'd give this a try. We're doing this for Fragments first. This is like the guinea pig. And then we've got Sunwarper's Radiant Visage next month.
Yeah, which I don't think you could see it, but I do just have sitting here the vinyl. Yeah. Well, I was taking photos with it and whatnot, and it's still here. So it's just chilling, you know. Sorry about the noise if you're hearing it. I've got the air conditioner on. We have a bit of a heat wave again. And Shady Ridge is in the chat. What's going on, Shady? Good to have you here.
Yo,
how are
Shady. You? All right, dude. Nice to see you. Welcome. I hope you're having a good day. What have you been up to anyway, Samplebrain?
I made a beat just with the microphone of the pocket operator.
Nice.
So I made random noises like, you know, to make hi-hat sounds and shit. And then I sampled a Bill Evans piano song off of Spotify using the microphone. So everything was with the mic. So it was really fun to see that workflow. And I really love the way the pocket operator, pocket operator works. And just the workflow in general and the grittiness of all the samples and stuff. So my plan is to record that into the SP, and then just keep reamping through that system. Like go back into the pocket operator, then back into the SP, and just mangle the sound. I think that's something, not those two pieces of gear, but Boards of Canada have done, where they take like 2 cassette recorders and just keep recording the sound from each one, reamping, and it just gets destroyed in the process.
Well, there you go. I mean, I think if this was you taking another step towards sampling, wasn't it?
I put on Twitter, going ever deeper down the rabbit hole of sampling.
That's the one. I think you'll enjoy this Samplebrain if that's the case.
Yeah, I got to check it out.
It's fucked. We'll get to it later. I've been having a little play with it, kind of working how it goes, so we can take it, bring it to you guys for the show today.
Yeah, we'll show you how to, like, the workflow of it, at least as far as Kh3rtis has gone with it so far, and then some of the sounds that he's made. And from what he said, I haven't heard them, so you're hearing it as I'm hearing it. It sounds like it's pretty interesting, so.
It's as far as Aphex Twin go, I mean, if you can imagine everything that comes out of Aphex Twin, it's very Aphex Twin, so it's cool. I appreciate it. So we'll get there. But yeah, we'll get there when the time is right. So, shall we continue?
Yeah, let's continue.
Cool. So this is a new concept we're doing. We're going to start doing this for everyone who releases on the label. We're going to have like live listening parties. We just happen to be starting with Fragments because that was the latest release we've had out on the record. I had an EP out on, what was it, Friday? That's the one, Friday. Yeah. And so yeah, this is the closest ADSN we've got. So we're going to have a live stream through. I'm gonna sit here and pretend to not be awkward about the whole situation, and and yeah, if you guys have got any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask them, and we'll put it down. So yeah, that's enough from me for this stage.
yeah, just if you've got any questions, like I said, about production, sound, mastering, anything like that, let us know in the chat, and we'll get to them in between each song. There's 3 songs. They're about what 8 or 10 minutes each. They're short tracks for you.
Yeah. The 8 minutes, 8 minutes, and 11 minutes. So,
there we go. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
go.
shall we start with the first one then?
Yeah, let's start with that one.
All right. You want to give any preamble about it?
Well, okay. So this is the intro to. Well, I suppose it's the intro into where they're going.
Okay.
Fragments 2 is the whole point of it is a shift further into the world of Kh3rtis, and you are looking at 2 new civilizations, the V and the Jade. And this gravity assist is kind of like the more optimistic kind of exploration side of it, is where you're going to start and find out to new frontiers, basically. So it's quite a orchestral, kind of a happy, kind of uplifting vibe to it.
Oh, cool. All right, so let's check it out. So this was a bit hastily done in the formatting for this, so hopefully it works. If it doesn't, let me know in the chat. I'm going to switch scenes, and we should get gravity assist, so bear with us. All right,
Yeah,
so
dude.
that was Gravity Assist by Kh3rtis, in case you missed
Hey.
it. Yeah, dude, I love that song. I remember that was the first one I mastered when I did this. It's just so like pleasantly lush, and I'm curious, is that just a giant instance of supermassive?
Yeah.
I had to ask.
I don't think there's any. I'm not sure if there is any supermassive. And
Oh,
that might
that's
be a bit of a
blasphemy.
bold claim. I think when I wrote it, I was doing it on. I think it's all stock. I think it's all
Stock Ableton plugins, or
stock Ableton plugins. And I think
Oh, interesting.
as far as I remember, at least on Gravity, it says
yeah,
it's all stock plugins, and then it's just effects changed, like old school style. Like you're just doubling up on reverbs, doubling up on delays, doubling up on all of that, and just
Okay.
sculpting it from the back. If I remember correctly, I think later
Yeah.
on down the line, when you get into Sector 8, when you get into Mazium's Well, I think that's again there's a bit of that because I did those here, whereas I wrote Gravity Assisted work.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. All right. Well, should we
Yeah.
check out, what's the next one? Sector 8, I believe, right?
Sector 8's up next. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is a bit
alright.
darker in tone. Yeah.
Darker in tone? Okay, so what's the
Yeah.
preamble for this one then? Is it the different species or race that you're
Well,
exploring? in this one?
Sector 8 is one of the sectors, believe it or not, that
Wow, surprising.
where where the civilization. Well, so the V are. I'll try and keep this short. The V is where basically the captured prisoners of war and the captured civilians of the V, they go there for
Okay.
processing. Basically, this is where they become slaves essentially, and this is where they are put here for processing. And there's such a backlog of all the people because they're very good at the V are very. I hate to say it, they're very good at what they do. There's sometimes a delay of 4, 5, 6, 7 Earth years before people are processed. So there's this whole kind of this sector is basically a refugee camp of people who have been captured and awaiting processing, and they now live their lives here. And some people have lived their entire lives here in this place. And yeah, so this is Sector 8 is exploration of that place. It's kind of like the introduction to the Devi themselves.
Okay. All right, well, let's check it out. So this is Sector 8. I was muted. Sorry. It's a whole new process we're doing here. So that so that was Sector 8. That was really interesting. I'd be curious to know, when you were approaching making this EP, did you intend to go, as you call it, hardcore ambient? Just basically beatless, lots of drones, you know?
Essentially. Oh, we've now got the loop back on my phone. Yeah, all this is new technology to everyone here.
Just further proof that we are indeed live.
Yeah. We are live thanks to our patrons. So yeah, if you wanted to get in and see this, for example, our patrons got this Fragments EP ahead of time. They get extra videos ahead of time, and they really help us support what we do. So if you like what you see here and this new frontier, so to speak, head over to our Patreon, have a look, patreon.com/audionautic, and yeah, become part of the gang. There's a whole community there.
Yeah, we've got exclusive Twitter group, a Discord channel, and what do you call it? Exclusive content. We've got a whole podcast with our friend and colleague Eon Lake, who unfortunately can't be here today, but he'll be back next week. And then we also have early access to some of our other content, like Binary Stars and things like that. So as Kh3rtis said, if you want to check it out, patreon.com/audionautic, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah, very much so. What was the question, Sunwarper?
Yeah, way to just trail off. Yeah, you know, it's okay. Patreon's important. We appreciate everyone who supports us. So I asked, when approaching making this EP, did you always have the intention to go, as you say, hardcore ambient?
Hardcore ambient. Yeah, that was the idea.
Straight edge ambient.
Straight edge ambient. I've never really done that. Like we met, and we didn't meet in the community, but we've always been part of that kind of like ambient-ish community. It's kind of around about, which is kind of grown more now, but like that's where we began. I started doing ambient with Math and Astrolab with my guitar, and then I was like, okay, I've grown a bit now, I've done a bit more in terms of production and stuff, I've got a bit more gear, I've got a few more sounds, let's see what we can do when we go full ambient. Fragments 1 was like an experimentation and kind of like the beginnings of that, and it became out a lot more experimental than it was. A lot more experimental, but I think I've progressed quite a lot more. And so this one is kind of like, okay, let's make some ambient. Ambient is good. I'm going to make some, like you say, hardcore ambient.
No, that's and what you say. I'm quoting you, my friend.
Well, yeah, I'm going to make some. I want to make some hardcore ambient. Never done it before, so let's do it. And I did it essentially.
Yeah, cool.
So in short, yes.
All right. Well, we should probably move to the final track. We've got one more track for you all from this EP. Do you want to give a little bit of info about it?
So yeah, this is Mazium's Well.
Okay.
Now, Mazium is the homeworld of the V. The previous slaver civilization, which I mentioned before in Sector 8. Basically, Mazium is geographically located quite far away from other planets, and so it's used quite a lot as a slingshot because it's got a large gravity well to it, hence why the Divi are so short. There's a large gravitational pull on it, so it's used a lot by shipping lanes and a lot by different people to travel from one sector to another. So as a result, it's a kind of like a floating community of floating melting pot of all the different civilizations in the world inside my head, essentially. So yeah, and so it's a meeting point. And so it's called Mazium's Well, hence Mazium's Well.
All right, so let's check it out. Look at that, not muted. That's the way to start coming back from a song. So that was Mazium's Well. So, quick question. You mentioned, I think for that first song you wrote, you didn't have a guitar, but I know you got a guitar later. So I'm curious, did you put any guitars in this?
No, there's no guitars in this at all.
No guitars, it's all synth. Okay.
Everything's synth. Everything's definitely not muted because I've just heard us. There's no guitar. Everything's MIDI in this one. And it was written. Firstly, some of it was written before I actually got a guitar over here.
Okay.
Also, it was written in different places depending on where I was, and it was basically an exercise in novelty, or taking the laptop to different places and writing while I was there, like with a little kind of like MIDI keyboard, that kind of thing. I'm writing in the coffee shop. I wrote one in the coffee shop. I wrote one at work, and I wrote one here, but without any of the gearing like that. Right.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I was going to ask,
did
you use like a template when you started each track, like the Fragments 2 template, or was it just kind of the environment you were in dictated the sort of soundscape you wanted to explore?
Yeah, so I mean, all of them are kind of in an Eon Lake fashion, as in they're like that. They always just keep expanding and getting bigger.
But no whiteboard, right?
There's no whiteboard, but there's no template as such. Gotcha. But I know each one's different in their own way. But they all just kind of keep expanding. That's the only kind of template, but that's just kind of how I see the idea of the expanse, the massive expanse, that kind of thing.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was it's a whole listen through for Fragments 2, which I haven't done before. So I mean, that was really
well,
fun.
you made them, so you did, even if it wasn't all together.
Yeah, I suppose. We'll see what happens. Now I'm ready. They're out there now. So I mean, Fragments 3 will come around at some point.
Nice.
Maybe at that point I'll listen to them again. So
there you go.
I hope that you enjoyed it. Hope that you guys listening had fun with it. So yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, and we'll be back with another one of these when we do one for Radiant Visage. It'll be on October 13th, 12th? 12th.
12th, yeah.
12th,
so 2 weeks, basically 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting down. Sunwarper's been working on Radiant Visage now for a long ass time.
Yeah, it's nice to finally have that done-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
And by done-ish, I mean it's not out, but it's like nearing
it's on the way.
Yeah. I've got the CDs here. The postcards are coming for the special edition, so everything's coming together.
That's what we want to see. So so we'll be down there doing this in 2 weeks. And if you guys liked it, we'll be doing it for future releases for both ourselves and for people we've got coming onto the label next year. Let us know if you like this kind of idea, sitting down, talking about it, questions and answers, that kind of thing. It'd be good to know what you think about this whole situation.
Yeah. And now, let's get to the gear. So, I don't know if anyone saw it, but most likely if you're a fan of IDM or Aphex Twin in general, you may have seen that there was a new software that came out. It's free to download, I think on GitHub. It's a collaboration from Aphex Twin and Dave Griffiths. It's called Samplebrain. And this thing looks trippy. So our producer extraordinaire, Kh3rtis here, was able to download it and did a little bit of work on it. So he's going to take us through the software, and then we'll hear a couple of the sound sources or sounds that he's created through it. I haven't heard it yet. I haven't used it. But from everything he said, it sounds like it makes some crazy sounds. So I'm looking forward to taking a look into it. And if you have any questions about the workflow as Kh3rtis is going through it, let us know in the comments, or in the chat, I should say, or in the comments later once this is aired. And we'll look into it, or he'll go over it now.
Yeah, you have to stall for a second because it's just loading up. The one thing we have worked out is that itself is quite CPU intensive, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I wouldn't say it's like massively CPU intensive. I also, as I say pretty much every week at this point, I'm working on a very old laptop.
What is it, 8 years old now?
Yeah, we're on for 8 years.
I mean, that's impressive in its own right.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it'll be 9 years. It'll be 9 years next month. Because 9 years next month. So I need to get a new one.
You sound like a broken record with that.
I know. We'll get there one day. But yeah, so it's quite CPU intensive, but it is bloody amazing. So basically, I'll bring this up here so that you can kind of see the extent of it.
As you bring it up, let me just run through what Aphex Twin describes it as. So he says, what if you could reconstruct source audio from a selection of other MP3s/audio on your computer? What if you could build a 303 riff from only acapellas or bubbling mud sounds? What if you could sing a silly tune and rebuild it from classic music files? You can do this with Samplebrain.
In theory, yes, you can. Very much so. It's how do you describe this? Basically, it mangles sounds together, and it creates. It basically takes a number of samples that you can load into it, chops it up into its own pieces with algorithms, and then spits it out in a different fashion. And
interesting.
I mean, you could create a 303 sound from an acapella if you really wanted to,
or bubbling mud.
Or bubbling mud, yes, very much so. It's a little bit more ad hoc than that. I mean, but I mean, that's, I suppose, it's the fun of it, I suppose. So this is the key of it in its own right. And basically, you start by loading sounds here. Now, if I see what comes up, I put this.
I hope your computer doesn't explode. And on that note, Shady Ridge in the comments says, my iMac is 14 years old. Got you beat. New one coming end of the year. Wow,
that's what you need.
That is impressive. I'm curious, Shady, are you getting one of the M1 Macs or something else? I don't know if all of them are M1 now or not. I can't remember, but yeah, let us know.
Oh yeah, let us know. I'd like to see that. Shady, nice one, brother.
That's crazy.
I see if I can get to 14 years before I start complaining.
I hope not.
We'll see. But yeah, this is what it is here. I've loaded. Okay, so I've noticed I've been playing around with the demo pack that it gives you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing around with some samples that you can put in. It works best with short samples. Now I've loaded in some longer samples, which are like between 6 and 11 seconds, and it doesn't like it as much.
Okay.
But if you cut them down to about between 1 and 3 seconds, then it seems to be fine. I think it's one of those that the more time you have, and the more kind of the amount of time you're willing to wait, the more it will mangle it, and the bigger samples you can have. It just takes a bit longer.
Gotcha.
For consistency's sake, and for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm using the demo pack.
Okay.
So basically, you load the sounds that you see here. And then we have 4. So we have a clunk, a flitter, a sequence, and a flatter. These are basically one shots. And the clunk, and they do sound like clunks on their own. You can listen to them. It just had the door shutting and stuff like that, and it's fine. So I downloaded a load of one shots from Splice for drums, and then which worked just as fine. But then also I got some like different like harps and trumpets and oboes and stuff like that.
Nice.
Put them through. They worked fine, just less effective or slower, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So you get the sound in, and then what are some of your tweaking options?
So, well, that is one to be experimented with. Basically, they don't make much sense on their own. But okay, so first off, you say regenerate brain. So everything. Okay, so it goes basically from right to left. So you add them. This is your brain here, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you generate the brain, where basically it cuts them up and puts them in order, essentially, right?
Right.
And you can choose. They're all random. So how often or how big the chunks are, for example, how much or how often they're cut up. Then whether or not those blocks which have been chopped up overlap over each other, so you've got some resampling there and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then what seems to be the window shape, which I think I've fathomed, is basically here have a different kind of like waveform or something like that, essentially. So yeah, that comes right. So this is what you do here, and then you can save if you want to. You can save that brain just as it is.
Okay.
And then you can come back to it later before you go into the brain tweaks on this side here. Now, from what I've found, novelty, boredom, and stickiness, technically spelt wrong, but stickiness is there.
English teacher is coming out right now.
So yeah, so I found that if you play with these 3, you get the most variety coming through. Frequency and dynamics, these are more like your kind of like your sound design stuff.
Okay.
But then getting like different sounds, different literally different novel ideas in your sample, these are the best ways to kind of get it done. You can then stretch these samples, for example, coming through. Your algorithm, they have their own algorithms which are named thus: basic, reverse, synaptic, and slide. I found the most fun personally with synaptic, but I mean, you do what you want to get done. And then you can kind of come through here and tweak with these a little bit more. I can't play the sound through here, so we're going to go over to the Google Drive where we put some stuff up so you can see. But the ways that we can make that work is very varied in what they do, essentially. Now, I can't see the chat because I'm currently sharing the screen, but before I move to what it can make, do you have any questions about that?
Not yet, but if anybody has questions or ways that they're thinking of using this or incorporating it into their workflow, let us know in the chat and we'll get to it.
Yeah, completely. What I will say is that getting these, recording them, so you can sample your sample before you record it by just hitting play, put it through, and then you hit record, and it will send it directly into. In my case, it sent it into my downloads because that's the default, but you obviously have to change it if you want to. You can then it'll do it as a WAV file, and then obviously you can put that into your DAW or your sampler. In your case, your SP404 Sunwarper, or little pocket operator. The little pocket operator, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you put them through, you can mangle them. I think the fun is with the novelty, the board, and the stickiness. And if you want more kind of like melodic stuff, you want more novelty. If you want more glitchy, more techno-y stuff, maybe bring the boredom up and bring the novelty down. But that's you go have fun, basically. So
that's the beauty of it, right? To just explore it.
Yeah. Exactly. So for now, I'm going to bring this up and bring up these guys I've got here. Let's bring up this tab here. Let's do sample. Let's do this one. I don't know which one this is, but let's go with this one for now. Showing this tab to me, Google Meet. Yeah, so let's do this one. It's really slow, but there we go. Let's get rid of Samplebrain itself. Let's close that down. So yeah. So.
Whoa. That's cool.
Wow, that's weird. Now you can do longer if you want. I just did a short one for the purpose of demonstration. Right. But you can elongate them if you want to. Okay. Let's do that again. That's really rugged.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And do you recall what the sound source was? Was it like the clank thing or something?
These are all from the demo.
Yeah.
These are all from the demo.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. These are all from the demo pack. So you can chop them up, do them as you wish. Now I did the same thing. Hang on, if I show this tab instead. So I do this one here. You do the same thing. I think this one I increased the novelty and lowered the boredom and played around with some of the other parameters. It's all very ad hoc and it was very just kind of random, just kind of do it. A bit more Morse codey, a bit different.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's one of the same samples, which has then just been done in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play it one more time. Just a bit, like. I used to have a hearing test when I went to the hospital when I was a kid, and like that.
When you have to click,
that, you know?
Right? When you hear a beep, you've got to click. Yeah. When I had really bad tinnitus one time, I had to do that so many times.
Completely. And there's this one. I think this is the one. This might be my favorite. Very, very glitchy again. So this is just fucked with the parameters in a different way. Same samples coming through.
So Fragments 3 is going to get real trippy.
It's going to get trippy. It's going to get trippy. That's saying something coming to me. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, did you make any 303 sounds from a bubbling mud?
I'm not quite sure I'm that good a producer.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure I'm that good a producer.
I think you're too humble.
Again,
but all right.
I'd say maybe too humble. But we'll have to see. So like the jumping off points and the ability to use something as a sample and create something. You could chop that up and turn that into a drum beat. You could stick Valhalla on there and suddenly you've got an ambient drone. Like
you're speaking my language now.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless on this, and it's a really novel way of creating some form of just jumping off point for your production. I can imagine again taking that through modular and then resampling that and seeing what happens when you stick that through. That would just yeah, you could do anything with that.
I wish we had Eon Lake on here today. I'd be curious to get his take on it, but maybe I'll ask him next week when he's back, because that'll be interesting. So, do you foresee any ways of incorporating that into your workflow as it stands now, like in normal song or in your normal songs or something, or is that kind of like you want to just start with those sounds and build something around it?
If it were me, or at this point, what sprung to mind in the first instance is I would take that WAV file, I would put that into Ableton, I would chop it up either by hand or in Ableton. I suppose in Logic as well, you can just cut up by beats, for example, and I would then turn that into a drum beat. That would be where I would start with me on that one.
Interesting.
Yeah, for the Morse codey stuff, for example, maybe turn it into a little arpeggiator, repitch it, that kind of thing. Go from there. That would be what I would do with that. Again, that's just me, just purely thinking about something on the way through. Chopping it up, moving it around, fucking with it in different ways, pitch shifting it. Yeah, endless.
Yeah, that's awesome. It seems like a really good start idea generator.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of where we kind of want to go with. If you're stuck, or if there's something that you don't want to, or if you're stuck in a rut in terms of the studio or something like that, this could be a really good way to get past that. Trying something new, getting a new process coming through, or just starting something like, for me, for example, Fragments 2 I'd never done full ambient before, so it was kind of like, it was on the other side of the spectrum. Obviously, it's a bit lush and it's a bit swelly, but like it was a way to kind of bring some novelty into the studio and try something new. This is the same way, so I suppose a bit more glitchy, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's definitely giving me ideas, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Now, I feel as though textures would be a good shout. So like combining, for example, like I said, I had a trumpet, I had a cello, I had a harp, and a oboe, and they are all very different textures. They all have very different sounds, and that laid over each other, that created a lot of variance as well.
Yeah,
so I
can see that.
If you're going to put something into the sampler, I imagine creating variety that way to starting with as wide variety as you can, to then bring them together and then chop them up. That would be a good way to start. Again, that's just me. I imagine you could put 4 kicks in there at the same and create something just as weird and wacky.
Yeah, I mean, that thing looks incredibly cool for what it is, and just as an idea generator. Yeah, I gotta get that. And it's free. If anybody wants to download it, I think it's free over on GitHub.
It's on GitLab. Which
GitLab.
Is supposed to GitHub, the same thing? I don't know. I'm going to put it in the chat now.
There you go, yeah.
But it is completely free.
Synthopia claims it is also on GitHub, but that could be different. They could be in error, so that's what I was going for.
I've put where I got mine from. I got my copy from in the chat, so you can see it there.
Yeah, I mean, you know us, we love free stuff, especially Valhalla, but this seems like another really cool, just throw it on, see what you can make, and go from there. Little idea generator.
Yeah, so let us know. If you guys make anything with this or have any fun with it, let us know. I'm going to have a bit more experimentation throughout the week myself and see what I can come up with.
Cool.
Just for shits and gigs, really.
That's the only way to do it.
Exactly, yeah. We have got 6 minutes until the end of this this show. What do you want to talk about, Sunwarper?
Well, I was really impressed with that. I mean, you know me loving warped, messed up sounds. The new Chase Bliss, I think it's an update. It's the Mark II. It's a new pedal.
Okay. All right, I'll bring that up.
And you know how we love to talk about guitar pedals here, but it works for synth and everything like that. But this thing is pretty crazy.
Okay, so I'm bringing it up now. So I'm waiting for the loading time. Got to skip an ad because YouTube now make you watch adverts.
2 of them,
which is fun. I know, 2 of them. So yeah, let me bring this up here. So what made you catch this? What is it about this that caught your eye?
Well, as you know, with being obsessed with the SP404 and music like Boards of Canada and things like that, I'm all about warping, damaging sounds, getting these nostalgic sounding, hauntological type sounds. And this is kind of like one of those instant ones. I don't think I have it out, but I have a ZVEX pedal called the Lo-Fi Junkie, and that's like one of the earlier versions of this. And it seems like a lot of pedals have come out since then that are a bit better. Like my issue with the Lo-Fi Junkie is it heavily compresses it, and there's usually when you hit a first note after not hitting anything, there's a click, like a big pop. And so that's kind of like, I don't know if it's the first generation of this type of pedal, but to me it's like that first sort of sound emulating thing, and this one sounds like a massive upgrade to that. It's obviously a different company and all that stuff, but there's a lot of these different companies making these pedals, and I mean you can do sounds like this on an SP, and even with like Tape Mello-Fi as a plugin, or Vinyl, which is free from Isotope. But this just seems like a really cool way to do it. And you know, we always talk about how pedals and hardware have that tactile difference where things, you move something and something changes, and I just like that idea. Is there any way you can get sound on it without exploding your computer?
Completely. I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I understand. I rambled enough.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
There we go.
So you can see that
is wonky.
Yeah, I like that it has that kind of like missing frequency sound that I don't feel is often emulated well enough.
So I mean, we're now creating lo-fi with very hi-fi equipment.
Yeah, this thing was $400. That was the only thing. And
fucking hell.
We've talked about, you know, how good pedals and things like that cost a lot, and but I don't know. I'd be curious to hear the chat's take if they think it's justified for like one very specific sound type. Like this whole pedal's existence is to warp the sound.
An adult action movie.
I mean, if I had $400, I'd pick it up in a minute. The amount of fun.
Willem Dafoe plays a small
They're putting it
town
through
lawyer
voice
with
here.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the first thing I do. I use a lot of voice samples in my work. I would love to run it through one of these pedals.
Yeah.
See what you can do. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What would you do then?
That probably. Pause it for a second. I don't want to keep talking over, unfortunately. I mean,
Right.
I just love it as a experiment, like the same thing as the Samplebrain. Like, start with it. Just throw some sounds through it. You could record sounds into your computer and then loop it into it or something, but just to jam with it and really degrade sounds, or like they even show at the end they put whole songs through it, like finished songs, to just, you know, degrade it and things like that. I mean, if you would have asked me maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, I would have been much more like, I'm buying that right now. But I mean, not to keep saying it, but with the SP I could do very similar things, and I have the ZVEX if I wanted. I even have like a cassette recorder, so I don't know if it's something I'd jump for right now, but it is really cool, and I like some of it. Seems very nuanced with what it can do. Like there's a lot of different ways you can mangle a sound, and that's awesome. Much more control over that sort of mangling than say a 404 sound or something like that. 'Cause you only get like 3 effect. You get noise, warp, and frequency. That's it with the 404 thing. So
I think Hydra Fighter in the chat said it best. It's a very cool sound, but it's one heck of a price for it.
Yeah.
And I think you could, like you say, you could create the same stuff yourself.
Shady says you may use it for a bit, but it potentially collect dust after a while. May have to lock in your sound for that price. Yeah, I mean, like my ZVEX I haven't used since I got the 404, and that thing does much more than just warp sounds. You know what I mean? Like it's a sample play, all that. It's like it's a really cool idea and sound, and if that's your whole kind of like sound that you go for, I think it's probably more worth it. But if it's just something you wanted to explore, for $400 that's a little steep.
I wonder if it's like, okay, so say you're a session musician, for example, or say you're trying to bring lo-fi away out of the production room into the live space. That's an instant lo-fi guitar right there.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't need to fuck around with a long FX chain. You could just have that.
That's
true.
true.
It's like with most pedals. If you want to pay for a sound, then you just have to throw money at the situation. With all our situations, just throw money at the situation.
Yeah.
Get it done. Definitely room for experimentation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. With that brings us to the second hour. So, I mean, that was on the dot that we said that final thing.
Yeah,
so,
look at that.
That brings that through. So, yeah, it was a hell of an episode for episode 30, our first listening party live.
Yeah.
And a deep dive. Oof, okay, cool. I'm having fun. So, we will be back next week, as per, and we'll be chatting all sorts of shenanigans away. Anything, Sunwarper?
I think that's it. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks for joining us this week. And if you have any questions about Samplebrain or any of the stuff we talked about or production stuff regarding Fragments 2 after this ends, let us know in the comments and we'll get to them and we'll answer them.
Yeah, completely. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week.
Oh, I do actually have one other thing to add. I always add it, and I forgot to
there
say
you
it.
Go, there you go.
Yeah, it's been a very different format. I'm a little off. Give me a break here. Our podcast is on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and so if you like to listen to podcasts over there, you can head over to Audionautic on it. The links are also in the description, and if you'd be so kind as to leave a rating and or a review, it helps a ton. And we appreciate it. And if you need some new music, check out the Audionautic Radio playlist. That is also in the description. It's updated about every week. There's some really cool tracks on there. And if there's anything you want to submit, you can DM myself or the Audionautic Twitter, and we'll give it a listen.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, thank you very much. See you next week. Take it easy.
Thanks for watching.